What if I told you that one of history's most powerful kings, a man who dared to erase an entire religion, who built a city from nothing, who declared that only one God ruled the universe, also committed the most forbidden act of all, marrying his own daughters? Picture this. You stand in the shadow of colossal stone columns, their surfaces scarred by frantic chisel marks. The desert air sears your lungs, thick with dust that tastes of crushed limestone and prayers abandoned to silence. Around you, men swing hammers against walls once sacred, obliterating faces, names, and entire histories carved into eternity. Each strike reverberates like thunder, a funeral drum echoing through the hollowed halls of Karnak. Blow by blow, they are erasing a revolution, a dream that once threatened to reshape the world itself. The year is 1334 BC. The heretic Pharaoh is dead. His city stands abandoned, his god forgotten, and his very name, Akhenaten, the one who was pleasing to the Aten, is being carved out of history with ruthless precision. It is as if he never lived. Yet only 18 years earlier, this same man stood as the most powerful ruler on earth, his army stretching from Nubia in the south to the Euphrates in the north. He gazed upon the blazing sun disk and dared to declare that everything his ancestors had believed for 3 millennia was a lie. This is the story of Akhenaten, a man who set out to topple the gods, remake the world, and even recast the very bonds of family into a reflection of his theology. His rise was dazzling, his fall catastrophic, and his choices, most of all his forbidden unions, remain among the darkest, most unsettling chapters in human history. The story begins in 1353 BC, when a teenage prince named Amenhotep IV ascended the throne. His father, Amenhotep III, had ruled for nearly 40 decades of unimaginable wealth and power, building temples that glittered like mountains of gold and presiding over an empire that stretched across the known world. The young pharaoh inherited it all: the palaces, the armies, the vast treasuries of Karnak and Luxor. He should have been content to uphold tradition, to worship Amun-Ra, Lord of the cosmos, and maintain the sacred order of Ma'at that had blessed Egypt for centuries. But something burned within this boy king. Perhaps it was the way he watched the rising sun over the Nile, transfixed by its brilliance. Perhaps whispers reached him of Aten, the visible disk of the sun spoken of by priests as more than just another face of Ra. Or perhaps it was something more profound: visions in the night, a voice that seemed to speak directly from the heart of the blazing orb itself. The royal court at Thebes in those years was a dazzling theater of wealth. The great temples dominated the skyline, their pylons towering like man-made cliffs. Karnak alone employed tens of thousands, priests, scribes, craftsmen, slaves. Its coffers overflowed with tribute: gold from Nubia, cedar from Lebanon, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, ivory from sub-Saharan Africa. The high priest of Amun wielded power equal to the king himself, presiding over estates that fed and employed much of the kingdom. Religion was not just faith, it was the machinery of empire. Into this immovable system stepped a young pharaoh who looked and thought unlike any ruler before him. Contemporary descriptions portray Amenhotep IV as tall, slender, with an elongated skull, narrow shoulders, wide hips, features that would later be exaggerated into almost alien grotesques by his sculptures. Whether illness, symbolism, or truth, he stood apart from the perfected masculine ideal of Pharaoh's past. His education followed the traditions: hieroglyphs, mathematics, astronomy, warcraft. But somewhere, perhaps in temple schools or through whispers from foreign diplomats, seeds of heresy were planted. By his 4th year, the young king had already begun construction of temples not to Amun, but to Aten, within sight of Karnak. The priests watched with growing alarm. And then came the art. For the first time in 3,000 years, Egypt,
in scenes carved for eternity, she is shown dead upon a birthing bed, mourned by her parents and sisters, a wet nurse holding a newborn nearby. The implication is devastating, that this young princess died in childbirth, perhaps delivering her own father's child. Meanwhile, Egypt's empire crumbled. The Amarna letters, clay tablets of desperate correspondence, show vassal kings pleading for aid. If the archers do not come, all the lands of the king my lord will perish, wrote Rib-Hadda of Byblos. But Akhenaten, consumed by his vision and his domestic web, offered little more than empty words. The empire slipped away piece by piece. Inside Egypt, resentment simmered. Ordinary people, stripped of their beloved gods Isis, Osiris, Amun, had little comfort in a distant sun. The economy faltered as temple wealth was seized. The priests, though suppressed, waited patiently for revenge. By his 17th year, Akhenaten was worn down. His body, elongated and fragile, may have borne the weight of genetic illness worsened by inbreeding. His face, once serene in statues, now grotesque, almost inhuman. Then, without warning, he was gone. What followed was confusion. Perhaps Nefertiti ruling as Nefer-Neferuaten, perhaps Menkaure. But within a few years, a child emerged on the throne, Tutankhaten, later renamed Tutankhamun. Modern DNA reveals his parents were siblings, likely Akhenaten and a sister wife, proof of the destructive incest that underpinned this dynasty. Guided by priests and generals, the boy king restored the old gods, abandoned Akhenaten, and consigned his father's revolution to the shadows. The final erasure came under Horemheb, who seized the throne after Tutankhamun's death. He ordered Akhenaten's name chiseled from every wall, his statue smashed, his city dismantled block by block. The official king lists leapt from Amenhotep III to Horemheb, as though the heretic never lived. For over 3,000 years they succeeded. Akhenaten became a ghost, erased twice, once in death and again in memory. Only in the 19th century did his buried city and broken hymns return to light. Today, standing in the desert ruins of Amarna, you can still taste the dust, still imagine the echo of hammers striking stone, chiseling away his name. Akhenaten, the pharaoh who married his daughters, who dreamed of one god and a perfect world, remains frozen in that fragile moment when vision met tradition and lost. His story whispers still in the desert wind, a haunting reminder of what might have been.